Hello, everyone. My name is Jeannie Shop, and I come to you from my company, Pathways Towards Literacy. And I am the editor and a co-author in the upcoming book, Reading Isn't Optional, Fulfilling the Promise of Literacy for Secondary Students. And I'm here today with one of the amazing authors, Leslie Laud, and she is going to share with you just a little teaser about what her chapter is all about. So, Leslie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people what you want to know about your work in secondary literacy?
Sure. And thank you so much, Jeannie, for having me. And thank you so much for the honor of including me in this magnificent project that you've been working on. It's been humbling and an honor to be part of it. Sure. So to introduce myself, I am 35 years into our career and still loving absolutely every single day about it as I do this work. I began as a teacher in special education 35 years ago. And like all of us, looking into the bright eyes of our students who wanted help from me, I wanted to be able to help them. And my background is I was trained in self regulated learning actually by the person, Dr. Lynn Corno, who coined that term back in 1985.
Mm.
And so it was always in my blood, bones, and being to help students become self-regulating. That's been my driving force all through the 35 years I've been in our field. I got more and more structured in how I do this, but I would say the biggest thing to know about me is that um, kids are the center of my universe. Seeing them succeed is everything to me. That is our nourishment, that is our fuel that keeps us going.
Well, and your chapter is focusing on writing in secondary classrooms, and we know that writing is one of the most complex tasks we ask our students to do, and we can't write without language, and we can't write without having strong reading skills because it's a reciprocal process. So, tell us what has inspired your focus on your chapter and why this your chapter is so critical to improving reading outcomes in our secondary classrooms.
Yes. I just heard Lindsay Kemeny this week say that writing is the hardest thing we ask kids to do. Researchers have said it, it really is. Reading is breathing in, writing is breathing out. They are reciprocal processes, they need each other. And if we want students to become better readers, they must be better writers. That has been the missing component from every literacy wave that we've had, where science of reading, we need to be science of writing. I heard somebody talking about the right to read recently, and somebody said, what about the right to write? And that is the critical piece that I have no doubt we have been missing. But assigning writing is not the way to the end goal. Yes, students need to have more opportunities to write, but the writing needs to be taught explicitly. Students need to be given scaffolds, as we were just talking about.
Mhm.
We need to model how to use them because they are mimics all the way up to high school. And we need to give them ample opportunity to practice and see themselves getting better and better.
Yeah, and I find what I find fascinating is in my work, like I was seventh grade English language arts, and Common Core had come out in 2010, and so I was just really rooted in what kind of writing is my are my students expected to do, and how can I leverage? We're going to read, and then we're going to write, and I would always give my students, a model,
Mm.
like this is what it's supposed to look like, and I had a leader walk in my room and say, Jeannie, this is great. Most people don't do that. And I was like, I mean, other teachers, most teachers don't give kids this is what it's supposed to look like. So why is modeling so important?
It's so important. Um, we've known this for 5 decades. In the 1970s, Don Deschler was a pioneer who figured this out at the University of Kansas that kids need the models. And he put together his strategy instruction model. And at the core of it was give a strategy so that they can produce the model. Show them. I renamed it to exemplars because you show an exemplar of strong writing and then you model how to get there. So I made that language distinction because I have spent 2 decades trying to bring what you were doing in your classroom to teachers at scale. It sounds like you had figured it out. And as your administrator commented, most don't. We don't just figure this out. You were lucky that you did. But I have spent decades trying to take what's in the research world, which is so rough hewn, carry it to classrooms, carry it to teachers, take feedback from teachers, and make it even clearer and put together this transferable, portable little framework that teachers can use to recreate what you were doing in your classroom, Jeannie, and take it at scale to many, many more classrooms.
Yeah, and I think, one of my, biggest pinnacles was I think my national board experience, getting that certification in early adolescent English was really profound to me because the key target, right, in that experience was all students. All of my students are going to have success in my classroom. And how am I going to reach all, meaning all? And I had an integrated classroom, so I had students with IEPs, I had high performing students. And so I wanted to make sure that they all felt like they were writers in my classroom. And if that meant I give kids a close where they're just filling in their ideas and they're typing it, they had that scaffolding. So I know your chapter sheds light into having a systematic approach to writing and having the scaffolding. So tell us a little bit about what's is underneath in your chapter.
Sure. I'll quote Dr. Sarah Siegel. She worked very closely with Dr. Connor, Carol Connor, and developed A2I, which was this beautiful reading assessment system. And she worked at scale. She had multiple large scale research studies that she led. And she said something I'll never forget recently in a talk she gave. She said, for something to scale, for us to be able to reach masses of teachers, you need a framework. And so, a good idea here, good idea there, it all needs to be held together. So, what my chapter does is it unveils, it just lifts the cloth off of it, and you get to see the framework. And it's a neat, elegant little framework, like a little tiny suitcase that you can pick up from the book, carry into your classroom, and see the power and the magic of the most heavily researched practices in the teaching of writing unfold. And you will watch the success that it enables your students. I'm thinking of 2 high school teachers that recently met with me and showed me how they had significantly less students not turning in work. They had significantly higher scores on the end of year essays that the kids were writing, all with this little framework. I don't take credit for it. All I did was arrange it, but I combed the research world, kept tracking the research world. I'm not beholden to one researcher. I was drawing the best from multiple and being integrative, pulling together multiple approaches to create this framework. So, in that chapter, you will see this full framework explained, how to use it with secondary learners, and how to bring it alive in your classroom.
Hmm. And that's pretty powerful because we need a framework because in my experience in secondary classrooms, like, okay, I'm going to assign you an argumentative piece. This is the rubric. Go ahead and write, right? Whereas we're not supporting our kids and really just having that model and having that framework. But I also have found super interesting in my work as education because I taught third grade, fifth grade, middle school, everywhere. Teachers oftentimes would just push writing to the end of the table, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
Like, just push it away. And I'm just going to stay in reading. I feel comfortable here. But that writing piece, and I have found, and I would love to hear your insight on this, that teachers generally are readers, right? We're comfortable reading and we read books, but they haven't always seen themselves as writers. And so, how do we get teachers more comfortable with teaching writing?
Such a good question. And I just want to build off of what you said a minute ago. Um, Writing should be the centerpiece on the table, not pushed to the edge. Everything should be centering around it. We should read less and write far more. Create more than you consume. The consuming is good, but a lot of it washes over, and we don't have the Velcro to absorb the academic language. and then be able to reproduce it on our own. And that is what gives students access,
Mhm.
command of academic language. If we want that to happen, the stronger route is through writing, not just through exposure in reading. Um, and so, yes, we don't want to just assign, we want to teach. And again, back to what you were talking about, giving kids strategies, stems, scaffolds, showing them the exemplar that you want them to be aiming for, then modeling how to get there. And then, most importantly, get that going in a power cycle, we call it, where every week they're writing and then they're self scoring, peer scoring, getting feedback. And then the next week they enter the week with a new goal. And that new goal is coming from how they wrote. And then that changes everything. You don't have kids who don't feel unsuccessful.
And I love it. That sounds real workable for teachers in the secondary space who have, a schedule, say they have 45 minutes of ELA
Right.
and they have to cover all
Right.
these standards. Or I had 64 minutes, right? And I remember
Wow.
spending my Thanksgiving vacation writing my students, I mean, reading and assessing my students' summative short stories. And I gave up a lot of family time to do that. And I think that's what's happening for a lot of teachers in the secondary space is that it's volume, right? It's volume of writing. I have 120 papers that I have to take a look at and I have to give them feedback on. And so how do you recommend supporting secondary teachers? And like we have to get writing back into our classrooms. Our kids need to be writing, but how do we balance that out?
Don't score it. Don't score it. That's what I say to the high school teachers. You don't need to be scoring it. Research shows that if you train up your kids in how to self and peer score, you can get them to the same correlation as what a teacher would give them. And I have seen it with my very own eyes.
That's fantastic. Because I always say scoring at the end does serves nothing, right? Because they're not gonna
Yeah, no,
no,
you
I
need
mean,
to.
very few kids go back and say, "Oh, I want to." You read red, 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 red. I'm going to read the red, and I'm going to improve my writing. Right? The work is done in between.
If I had one message for high school teachers, well, I would have to pepper in a few.
That's the next
Teach
question.
the
What's that
strategies,
takeaway? Go.
teach the strategies and scaffolds, model how to use them, and then have a regular formative assessment feedback process where you've taught the kids how to score so that you don't have to score. Our teachers score dramatically less the year they work with us than they did in all their prior years. And their kids are performing significantly better. We see 20-25%
That's
gains in ELA
amazing.
proficiency on state tests. But what they're doing is they score in front of the class, and the kids all self score, peer score, and trade their papers. And the kids learn how to score. They learn what the criteria is. The challenge after that is how to get them to produce that. But they learn how to evaluate a piece of writing so that they can, when they're finished, know, color code it, self score it, find a peer, get some peer feedback. By the time it comes to you, it's 98% scored. They've
And that's
started
what I
with their
used to do
strong
in my
vocab.
classroom.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
You figured even had that out.
Yep, yep. We always had peer score, self score, peer score, changes, revise. So really, every and I always had like a hard stop. Like the due date is the due date. That doesn't change because that's life. Learning life is a due date. But you have a chance to improve it. You have 2 weeks if you want to turn in. So empower them if they really want to improve their final score. They could. Now, a few seventh graders took me up on that, but hard stop was always a hard stop. I didn't accept late papers. Improved papers, yes. Meet with me, go over it.
Wow, super exciting too,
Yeah.
because my whole thing in life and research and everything right now is teachers first. For too long, we have put researchers on a pedestal. Researchers are doing important work testing ideas, but they're rough-hewn. They haven't been through the cauldron of being in a classroom and ironed out by the expertise and the brain power that teachers bring. Teachers are doing this far better than researchers. And so we have to stop putting the research and the researchers on a pedestal and start prioritizing the teacher wisdom and knowledge that you have, Jeannie, in full.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very excited for this chapter to be in this book. I think it's a critical piece to really improving outcomes for our secondary students. So I know you said a lot of great takeaways, but just on a final note, what would be like one key takeaway that you want school leaders and teachers to apply after reading your chapter?
Apply the framework. give it a shot for about 2 to 3 weeks and then see what you think and then make it your own. But debating it, discussing it, pulling it apart, all of that isn't going to, you have to do, you learn by doing. So I would say just take the framework, introduce it to your kids, model it, go through the steps I outlined 2 or 3 times, figure out how to make it your own. You will have onboarded the best research that we have into your classroom, and then your magic and your expertise will make it your own and make it better.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you again for bringing your wisdom and your experience to light in this text. I'm really hopeful again that we're going to fulfill that promise for our kids in secondary, and you're going to be part of that that journey with us. So thank you.
Thank you.